Then from there, you know, you got shipped over to Europe, and your job was to do whatever. Tell us about that, and about your missions. And I guess Bob said you guys got shot.
Yeah, we wore parachutes, you know, so.
Did you practice doing that before,
Yeah.
so you knew what to do?
Well, yeah, we practiced in the States, not over there.
Well,
So
you
it was
really had,
practice over here, and well, it's a good thing we did, because we knew what to do when we got over there.
well, so you'll tell us all that, and tell us about when you got hurt, and just anything else that interesting that happened or that you remember. And then I will probably ask you some questions along the line, and you know, you talk about something, and I think I want more information. Maybe I'll ask you a question or two, and that's how we do it. It's pretty easy. You just relax and tell us what happened.
Okay.
And it's your story, so you can say whatever you want, skip anything you want. And it's the reason the Library of Congress wants this. They want to hear from the people that were really there, what it was like, you know, how you felt about things, how you were treated. You know, it's just going to be fascinating for all Americans to be able to, maybe if they can't really talk to you, but with the computer they can listen to what your real experience was, and that makes it different than just reading it in a book. So that's why we do it.
And your grandchildren, great-grandchildren don't know what you look like.
You'll be famous. All right, you ready? Is that rolling?
It's right, everything's rolling.
Okay. I'm Kathy Lang. This is March the 7th, 2003. We're in Harrison, Ohio. With me is Betty Whiteside, and we are interviewing Mr. Delton Marksberry. Delton, if you would tell us where you were born, please.
I was born in Marksberry, Indiana,
And when was that?
24th of November, 1920. Sorry, you got something wrong. 11/16/24.
24.
1924.
I forget a lot of things. You know,
That's all right. We'll work with you. So, the war broke out. Were you in high school? And what did you guys think of that all of a sudden?
Well, myself and two other guys, they told us if we wanted to go, go. And we'd still graduate. But that was like in March, and we would graduate in June, so it doesn't matter, you know.
So you decided to go.
The three of us, and we never seen one another again.
So you went
I
and
did see one, come to think of it, over in Italy, and at the, what do you call that place over there, where they had lions and people get killed?
the Coliseum.
Coliseum, that's where it was. I met one of them over there.
Well, that was interesting.
And I even met one of my teachers, Mrs. Kirkpatrick. She was over there with the Red Cross in the same place.
So you joined the Army, correct?
Yeah, when I joined, I thought I was joining the Army. I didn't know what was going on. I was lucky to get in the Air Force. No, Air Corps back in them days. The Air Force didn't come till later.
So it wasn't a separate branch yet. But you
Yeah.
joined the Army and you ended up in the Air Corps.
Sure did. Went for the Army. I first went up to place out. There's a base up around Indianapolis. You know what it is? I can't remember what. Anyway, that's where I went. There, I was only up there about a week, and I got shipped out to over in Illinois to the radio school.
Did you decide you wanted to be a radioman, or did they just decide for you?
Well, we had to take tests, and they decided by your tests what you was going to do.
So you did something on that test that made them think you'd be good at radios.
I guess at the hospital, because I had a ham at home, you know, ham set. I used to talk to people all over the country with that.
Well, see, you were
But that
a
was-
good choice for a radio.
So,
So did they train you?
huh?
Did you get training?
Yes, Scottsfield, Illinois. Yeah.
Did you have to learn Morse code?
Oh, yeah, but don't ask me now, because I don't remember it all.
So how long were you being trained?
Oh, about 3 months, I think it was.
This was in 1942 or 41?
No, it was,
42.
yeah, 42.
Okay. So did you guys know where you were going to get sent? You had no idea?
No. And, after radio school, I went down to Laredo, Texas, and learned how to fire out gun,
MC.
machine gun. You know, that's what kind of, we had 50 caliber machine guns on our plane, so 10 of them. Sounds like a lot, but it wasn't a lot, you know. Well, anyway, that Laredo, Texas, and then I went from Laredo to Utah. I can't remember the name of that. Anyway, that was like a separation center then, but we shipped out from there overseas. And we went overseas on a ship, not a plane, a ship. It was a big one. General Richardson, I think it was, went over on.
How long did it take to cross?
You know, I don't remember that. I thought about that, but it was a long time. That boat, I call it, didn't go real fast. And it was big. It had over 5,000 troops on it. You know, so that's a pretty good sized boat.
So you guys were crammed in there?
No, fortunately we weren't. There was only 10 of us in our crew. It was in the Air Corps, and everybody else on there was in the Army. And they were all, when you first go in, what are you?
Recruits?
Recruits, all of them. And we were the only Air Force guys in there, Air Corps. And I shouldn't say this, but we got treated like God. Really. And all them other guys, we even got eaten.
Maria, you have a call?
We even got to eat separate from them. Well, all of us was at least a buck sergeant up to tech sergeant. And all the other guys in there were recruits. That's what I call them. The poor guys had to go over and sleep in dugouts and stuff. It just don't sound good.
So you were feeling pretty lucky at that point.
Absolutely. And
Well fed, well cared for, and you could see that you were in a better position maybe than some of those guys.
I thought everything that went on in the Army was good for you or bad for you according to what your rank was. You know, that's the way it goes.
So you were already a sergeant before you went to the war.
I became a tech sergeant when I landed at did you ever see that show where Sam played the piano?
Cheers.
Humphrey Bogart?
Yeah, well, he was in, I think Humphrey Bogart was the one that was in there, but it was...
But he says play the piano, Sam.
Sam, yeah, he
Yeah,
was a
Sam.
black man, and he played the piano in this tavern, where it was. Anyway, that's where we landed, we got out there, and then we started working up through, that was in Africa, by the way.
Oh, so you went to Africa.
That's where we went first, yeah, got out over there.
No one Casablanca was it?
Casablanca?
Casablanca, there you go.
And when you got to Casablanca, they made you a sergeant.
Tech, I was already a sergeant.
So your first trip out of the States was to Africa.
Yeah, that's where we went at, into Africa. And we worked our way up. Oran, that's the top of Africa, that's where we went, took we had a little tiny boat compared to that big one we was on. Took us over across the Mediterranean Sea, we landed in, I don't know the name of that little town. Well, we ended up in Foggia, Italy. Foggi, I think it is. And,
Was that down at the boot?
huh?
Was that at the boot?
The
Or was it
bottom
at
of
the
the
top?
lake.
That way down, yeah.
At the
We
boot.
never got much farther than when we landed that there. In the boat.
Now, did they bring your airplanes with you on the boat?
Oh, no.
They were already over there.
Yeah, we was just your airplane over there, yeah.
So they assigned you to a plane.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of plane was it?
B-24.
It's a bomber?
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys paint them with big tigers and sharp
Yeah.
jaws and stuff?
Yeah, our first plane was, we called her Merzidotes. I don't know how to come up with that, but Merzidotes was written on it, you know. And then, second one was Harry James's wife. What was that?
Oh, Betty Grable.
Betty Grable. So we named it B. Grable. You know, it had to have something on there to think about. That was the second plane. And then the third one was She Has to.
She has the.
Mersey Dotes, B. Gable, and She Has to.
Yeah,
She has to make it back?
yeah. I guess that's why we made that.
Yeah.
But we were lucky in one way because it was, well, they were all brand new planes, you know, those new, nice planes. See, somebody flew that over there. Anyway.
So what'd you think about that aircraft?
What to think about it?
Was it a sturdy plane,
Oh, yeah, I thought it was. Real nice.
well made, it flew well?
Flew faster than a B-17. And I made one mission on a B-17 only to take somebody's place. Because they did have a B-17 group in Italy also.
So they gave you your orders every time you needed to go on a mission, right? They said, you're going, take off, you're going to, they gave you some direction and you're to bomb something, right?
Yeah, well, we had to go to like an interrogation, but that's not the right word. After we came back, we had to go to interrogation, but when we left, it was,
Briefing?
huh?
A briefing?
Briefing, that's what we had to go to, yes.
Where they gave you
First.
just enough information, right?
Yeah,
Said where you're going, what your mission is. What was your mission? You were supposed to bomb.
oh boy, I
Did
wish
you-
I got that all down in the book and all. I wrote every mission down and, see, we had a newspaper over there in Italy called something, and it always had what we did that day in that thing.
Stars and Stripes?
So that's it, and I cut every one of those things out, pasted it in a book, and pasted a little bit in a book about what I thought of it, and I got it at home. But believe it or not, I tried my best to find that this morning, and I couldn't find it. It's up in the attic, I think.
Well, so usually what were some of the missions, Delton? Were you bombing trains or?
Well, we bombed Palesti 3 times. That's where we lost, in a way, 3 planes. Because after we left there, we got flak. You know, you didn't know what flak was over there a while ago, but that was, you know, them guns shoot up there and then just flies around. There's shrapnel everywhere. And shrapnel can make you.
It comes right through the fuselage of the plane?
Well, some of them do, you know, but they'll be all around you. If you're, I used the gun at right behind the bomb bag, and oh, anyway, we had the side windows we had to open up, and as a radio operator, I didn't need the radio. I had to go back and shoot guns, 50 calibers. Another funny thing about that 50 calibers, if we use them and even shot 2 rounds out of it, would you believe we got rid of all of them? Every one of them before we got back to our base? That was a waste. We used to shoot at trains, anything over there we thought we could stop. Railroads, when we came home, we shot every round we had left. Believe it or not, that's easier for the ground crew to get them ready than it is to add these. Sounds funny.
So did you bombed cities? Is that what you bombed?
Oh, yeah, we bombed places that made, well, we bombed, I'm trying to remember that. But we bombed things like ball bearing factories.
Okay, factories.
Any factories that helped our war, we bombed them. I mean, we really bombed them too.
Did you ever drop bombs on soldiers?
No, we never hardly ever seen any.
So you didn't really see any soldiers. You were bombing military installations and factories, trains, anything that was helping them move weapons and things like that.
Yeah.
How high up did you guys fly?
Well, the highest we flew was 30,000 feet.
Is that when could you drop a bomb? How high up?
Well, our bomb runs are probably 10,000 feet,
So when you got over where you needed to be, you came down, dropped the bomb, then you took off and went back home?
Yeah.
Did you have to allow for the wind and the climate before you dropped, to gauge all of that, or did you just drop it?
Well, if we had to do what you said, I don't remember. The pilot would know that.
You just took your best. You got close and you thought this is a pretty good time, and you let it go. Nowadays they have those laser-guided missiles that are supposed to be able to go right in a certain window of a certain building. I mean, it's no guesswork anymore, but it was different.
They could do that. Sometimes we got our target and blowed it up, and sometimes our bombs didn't land in the right place. And we used to carry 12,000-pound bombs. Sometimes we carried what they call fragments. That's little pieces that just flew everywhere. It probably killed a lot of people. But I guess we didn't want to kill people, but we did.
Yeah.
Did you ever get enemy jets come after you? Enemy planes try to shoot you down?
Oh, every mission. When you got fairly close to what you were going to bomb, they were there. It was called Messerschmitt 109 and Messerschmitt 110.
So they were Germans.
They were all German planes, and
They were shooting at you.
they had a lot of them too, especially when we went over Plessy. That was the oil fields. And that was probably the worst target anybody ever had. They had so much things going for them there to try to shoot us down,
Well, they really needed that oil. I mean, that was one of the reasons they lost the war.
Oh,
They ran out.
we blowed that place, you wouldn't believe it. And when we did that, there was probably 50 B-24s and probably about the same amount of B-17s. When we went up from Italy to a target like that, then the guys over in England had B-17s, and they were there. We almost got so close to one another to drop them bombs. You had to see it.
Was it like flying around with fireworks going off? And bombs going off everywhere and lights and explosions, and you're up there in a plane?
Yeah, I wish I had them pictures here. I'd show you what it looks like up there when they're shooting at you. Because we had, well, the reason
You have a call in 42?
reason we managed to make it back from some of those places was, well, I guess because we were, I can't remember what I'm trying to tell you. That's awful, ain't it?
Well, you were lucky, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Were you scared to death up there, Delton?
Well, I guess once you start getting used to it, you know, because they're airplanes. I know it sounds fun, but it was fun shooting them 50 caliber machine guns. So, boy, you just pull the trigger once and you can't get one round off. You pull the trigger, you're going to shoot at least 6.
Were you shooting at planes with those guns?
Oh, yeah, those planes was after us.
Did you ever hit any of them?
No, I didn't, but Montaven, he got 1 or 2, believe it or not, and it's rare for the guys to get them. I don't know, but there was 3 different planes shot down out of our one crew. And that was, Matthews was on the upper target,
Upper position, whatever.
well, he
yeah.
was up in the, well, he was the engineer, but he still did the top turret. That's why I did the middle turret. It was on the, where you rolled in to look out.
Mhm.
Because see, all the time I was over there, sounds funny, I never had to use a radio once. Not once, and I was a radio operator. I know it sounds crazy, but we can maintain silence all the time. That's,
You just shot the gun.
huh?
You just shot the guns.
Yeah.
So when did you get first time you got shot down?
Oh, I don't know. And it's in that little book I kept too.
You got shot down 3 times, right?
Mm-hmm. And I ended up, the underground took us, and we ended up in Switzerland twice.
So now you were shot down over what? Italy?
Oh, no, Palesti. That's
the-
Romania.
Romania. The oil fields?
Huh?
Palesti.
Palesti's Romania.
So you got shot down over Romania.
Well,
Somebody shot your airplane and everybody had to jump out, right?
mm-hmm. Yeah, we was losing altitude.
So did everybody survive?
Oh, yeah.
Your crew, everybody bailed out. Was there flak all around you when you were coming down in that parachute?
Uh-huh.
That must have been kind of scary.
Oh, yeah, it was real scary.
Was it dark or light? Was it night or day?
Well, all of our was day.
So it was day.
It was dark when we took off, but it got light not too long after we was up there.
So what did you land? Did you land in the forest or in the fields?
You mean,
When you landed in your parachute?
uh-huh. Oh, you know, everything over there, there's not a lot of buildings and stuff between there and where we were going. Yeah, we was always out in like a place we could hunt rabbits. You know, just about wasn't much there.
So you landed in a field.
But there's well, had the underground there. Everybody had the underground.
And could you find all your other comrades? They had all landed too, and you could all see each other and find each other?
Well, we were pretty far apart, but we all ended up in Switzerland once. The whole group ended up there. We were surprised. But the underground took us there. Well, with the underground, if it wasn't for them, the Germans, they'd just shoot you on sight. They didn't care.
So did you ever see any Germans, or did the Romanians help you before the Germans showed up?
Well, I don't know who was the underground. I don't know. Whether they was Romanians or could have even been Germans. I don't know. My worst thing over there was after we jumped one time, we came to a little settlement, like maybe a half a dozen houses, but then it had one of them had this big barn. And I went in that big barn and had a whole bunch of pieces of wood, you know, and I wanted to rest a while, so I got in there and covered myself up with wood. And that's the only time I'd seen a German then. They was in there looking all around for us. And he had them big long, they all wore leather boots, you know, almost up to their knees. And well, I could have reached out there and touched him. Now, if I was ever scared, that was it, right there. Anyway, after he left, then I figured time to get out and start going again. See, that time I was away from my crew. We caught up. When we got back to Italy, that's where we always end back at. Well, it was all together again. So none of our crew ever got killed.
You were
That's
lucky.
lucky. You bet you it is. We seen planes go down, down, down. You'd think that sometimes some of them didn't get out. If they was in that plane when it hit, gee, you can imagine. It was but one experience. And I sort of looked back at it as, it's nice to know that, but I wouldn't ever want to do it again. No way.
So you were shot down 3 times. The underground helped you all 3 times?
Yeah, we always, they always found us somewhere.
So they
Because
just
see-
showed up. You didn't have to go look for
No,
help.
that's the only time we used the radio. But I didn't use it. The pilot wanted to take it and use it. So the co-pilot took over the plane, and he went back and used my radio to get. I always ended up toward the underground, knew where it was at, what was going to happen.
Before you bailed out of the plane,
Uh-huh,
he called in and somebody heard it.
yeah.
So they knew you guys were going to be falling out of the sky.
Well, yeah, because see, that time, we wasn't really shot down in a way, but we had to feather 2 engines. Now, if you know, I don't know if you know what that means or not, but we feather the, you know, your propellers are like that, but when you feather it, it's like that, you know. That finally it stopped, and we lose 2 of them. But when we had to fly, like from Foggia, where we were stationed at, up to Blackheimer, that's a place in Germany, we had to go over the Alps Mountains. And that's pretty high, you had to be way up there. And well, we was up there 30, I think the highest was 36 feet. And when we was up, we had to fly over the mountain. It was so high that our coffee froze. Well, you know, that high over the Alps Mountains, it was like 64 below zero.
Oh, my goodness.
And I mean, that even froze coffee we had in the jugs. We carried coffee,
Mm-hmm.
and we carried a lot of cheese sandwiches, just so you had something. And the sandwiches was so hard, it was hard to eat them, because everything froze up there. But see, we had things we could plug into, and that would heat our soup. See, we had seats warmed here. I don't know how they were made. All I know is we just plugged it in, and that's it. Just like you'd plug one in at home, but it was a lot of difference. And those seats were wonderful, because as cold as it was and all that stuff froze, ooh. But that didn't do that all the time, because we didn't take them kind of targets all the time, you know.
So where were you? You were going into Germany that time. right? When you went over the Alps, you were headed for Germany.
Uh-huh.
And your engines died, is that right? You had to land, you had to jump out.
Oh,
You said that you didn't get shot down that time, that you had to
No.
feather the engines,
oh, yeah.
and they quit.
Yeah, they quit. You had to feather them, but then before we could get back there, it was a long ways off. You know, when we took some of them, it was like 10-hour missions. You know, sometimes you're up there so long, you wonder if you're going to freeze. It is cold. Well, when we went to Beckheimer, I think Beckheimer was I think it was where they made some of their aircraft. You know, like fighter planes, we never did see any German bombers. But maybe there was one time we lived in tents in a olive grove. And they would come over sometimes at night and scatter it, you know, so nobody ever got killed, because the minute we could hear them, we'd pick it up on the radio all the way out. And we'd go out and jump in a foxhole and stay there till that happened. So nobody ever got killed, but they did tear up a lot of stuff. I know it sounds funny. I have a hard time remembering a lot of this.
That's all right.
And
You're doing fine. Your crew stayed together for how many missions?
46. Well, no, take that back. We had 46 with all of us, but one guy, his name was Jakutz. He was a bombardier. That's what he was. And he, I told you nobody got killed, but he did, but he died. He didn't get killed because they were shooting at him. He just died like he had a heart attack. But I don't know that was it. He's the only one we lost. And every time we flew over Germany and started dropping bombs and shooting, he was like a German sympathizer. And he'd get so mad at us for shooting that, and we figured, well, maybe that's why he died. I don't think anybody killed him, but he died. But there's things over there that's hard to believe. Out of our crew, we had one who was the nose gunner. He lived out in California. He wasn't a Mexican, but I'm trying to think what he was. Well, anyway, Lopez, that was his name. He was a front gunner. And when we'd be down on there, every once in a while we'd go into a town called Foggia, because we had taken it, and it was all ours. And we was in town one time, we had to be back to the base at a certain time, and we wasn't going to make it. And this one truck came by with I guess it was an Italian one, I don't know which, but he wouldn't stop and take us. So Lopez jumped on there and cut his throat, throwed him out on the side, and we went home. And, you know, I mean, that sounds awful, but things like that. Lopez, he was, we liked him, but he was mean. He really was. And the way things he used to tell us, he was in one of them gangs, you know, like around Los Angeles. He was from Sacramento, that was his home. And he was mean. Well, I don't know. I skipped around a lot because I have a hard time remembering some of them. But I'll tell you one thing over there, back in them days, we paid as much as $10 for one of those Italians for one egg. Not serious. But would you like to have a fix up good breakfast with eggs? So if you wanted them, you had to pay for them.
Oh,
So
yeah.
well, you know, and we had money but no place to spend it, so most of the guys saved it. I sent some home every month to my mom, and she kept it all for me. When I got home, she had it all away, and she wouldn't spend a penny of it. So anyway, you're pretty good cherish too, because, well, back then, I was a tech sergeant, and I used to send $115 home to my mom every month. And because we got, you know, paid over there and didn't have nothing to spend it on, you know? Really, and that's she bought some eggs or.
How were things with the Italian people? Were they usually nice to you?
Oh yeah, a lot of them was, yeah. There's one boy, Roscoe, and I used to help him. He wasn't rich or had a hard time making it, and I helped him all the time I was over there. And would you believe, after I got home, he sent me letters, a lot of letters, wanting to know if I could help him come to America. And I don't see how I could help him, but I did write him and told him I'd see what I could do, but I didn't manage it, you know. But he's the only one that helped us. He cleaned our tent, did everything for us. And we paid him whatever we thought it was it.
Were they really struggling? Not the soldiers, but the people that were living through this war. I mean, did they have a rough time with
Well,
trying to find food and?
I think they did, but we had quite a bunch of them on our base that did things to make some money. But when in town, I told you about the only places that was open was places that sold whiskey or beer or something like that. Was about the only people there to buy it and eat and drink it was us, the whole base, you know.
Did you have enlisted men, like infantry soldiers there too, and they were on the ground while you guys were in the air?
Well,
Or were you all Air Force?
No, our base was all Air Force, except they didn't fly all of them, but they had to take care of the plane that was on the ground.
But you didn't have infantry troops there too. It was strictly Air Corps
Well,
and support, Air
there
Force
are,
support.
not on our base there weren't, but there was places where we killed a lot of our soldiers. 'Cause they were somewhere they shouldn't have been when we flew over there. That was near our target.
So there was a lot of confusion about things like that. Mistakes happened. And
Oh, yeah.
did you know that you guys had killed some American soldiers?
Oh, that came up in our interrogation.
Did you feel bad about that?
Yeah, you couldn't help from it, you know, but they weren't supposed to be there. You know, we bombed where we were supposed to be, and they was up too fast, way up there. Now, those guys, most of them were probably a PFC. Unfortunately, the infantry, unless you was a, captain or a lieutenant, you didn't get much rank. You might have a sergeant that's in charge of what they call a platoon, but they didn't get much money. I guess they were PFC, that's about the highest they got. And a lot of them people got killed. An awful lot of them was on the June, I forget now, June the 6th, I think, wasn't that when they bombed the...
Oh, D-Day?
That's it,
Yeah.
yeah. And most of them had registered, sure, they were practically all infantry.
Yeah, they had a rough time. Did you know what was going on with the rest of the war? Were you able to keep up with it? Was there information to tell you what the status was of the battles and how the Americans were doing, or did you just not know and you just had to go on and do your job?
And we just went on, did our job. Some of the things came up on interrogation, and that's what came up when we bombed and killed some of our own men. The interrogation, they knew they weren't supposed to be there, but they just rushed it too much, you know, wanting to get up ahead. And so many of them got killed because they were really supposed to be bombing. And when you do that, you have no idea they're, well, you know, that they're there. We didn't know they was going to be there.
Right.
And all that happened. Hard telling how many people got killed, but they'd tell us sooner or later when we was on a, what she said earlier.
Briefing.
Briefing, yeah.
Now, did you guys participate in D-Day? Did you fly cover or anything like that?
In D-Day, we hauled gas. I had the bomb bay was filled with well, I don't know how much gas I hold, but they put tanks in the bomb door instead of bombs. And we carried that gas all the way over to, well, really, we let it down in Paris, I think it was. I don't remember the name of the city.
Well, tell us about when you got hurt.
Huh?
The time you got hurt.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. You were in the plane, right?
All right. I was in the plane and I was at the waist. It's called the waist where we shoot the guns at. See, now I have square planes like that, and you could take them and raise them and make them stay up there, and I gave you all the area there you could shoot through. Well, that's where I got a piece of that flak. Did you ever see a movie or anything shoot all that black up there? Well, that's flak, we call it anyway. And I got a piece of it right here. And, well, they fixed it up for me. And when I got back to the States, we come back, we was in Idaho. Mountain Home, Idaho. That's where we came back to. And they sent me to, it was like a VA hospital. And they took the plate out and put some hair in there. Well, I don't know how they did it, but you can't even tell I had that. My wife says, you got a little tiny scar left for that. But it's, you know, I can hit it. But I have a hard time really doing things because I fall so much. And
Is that from the head injury?
I don't know. The doctor, one of them doctors that, well, what his name was, don't matter. He told me, you know, my problem was back here in my brain, that's back here. And I got to watch when I get up, because all the time, sometimes I just go. You know, like when I'm in bed at night, say I'm on my right side. Well, if I want to change, get over on this side, I get, you know, dizzy, have a hard time. But,
When you got hit with the flak, were you knocked out?
no, that's the funny part. It wasn't. It just hit right there too, and that's also funny because we're shooting out, and the flak was there, but it got me here. So I think it came through the window that the other guy was. See, we were standing there back to back, and I had this window, and he had that one, and I think it came in there. It just got me back here, not up here.
So it hit you, but you didn't get knocked out. You continued with the flight. And then when you got back to the base, you went to the hospital?
Oh yeah, we had a hospital there on the base.
And they put the plate in your head?
Sure did.
And how long were you really like out of commission? I mean, how long were you in the hospital?
Oh, almost a month, I think. That's about all.
And then you got sent home to America? Or did you have to go back and fight some more?
Oh, I went back, I had 17 more missions after that.
And at some point they said, if you get to 50, you can go home, right?
Well, that was first.
And then they changed it.
And they changed it to 35, and I already had my 40s. I did my 46th mission when this came out. And when we got back and landed, we're finished. Then we went to Naples and caught a General Mahan. I don't know what that, H-A-N-N, that was the name of that boat. Ship, big ship, like what came over on.
Uh-huh.
And we had a nice thing on that too, because we were going home and all these other guys, most of them were all infantrymen. And boy, they lost a lot of them guys over there. Boy. Well, we did too.
Yeah.
We had a lot of planes just blow up right in the sky. And, you know, if you're in there, it's gone. I got a lot of that stuff on pictures at home.
Did any of your friends, close friends, get killed?
No.
So you were one of the lucky ones.
Oh, yeah, well, anybody got that many missions. And like you say, this one guy had 101. He must have been a pursuit pilot. He must have been in a plane all by himself. And
To make 101 missions, it's amazing, it really
oh,
is.
yes,
Because
it is amazing.
there was plenty of people that got killed on their first one.
That's right.
So you were fortunate. And then you came home, it was already, the war was over in Europe by then, when you came home, right? 45. Were you over there for VE Day? Do you remember when the war ended?
Yeah, I think it ended in September, I think, 45.
May of 45.
I think.
And you were still there? Because that's right when you got out, September.
Oh, I got sent home, but I forget what time when it was. It could have been October or November. Because I got home in 45, February 45, I got married after home, so.
Okay, so that was a little before the war ended, so you were already back in the States.
Yeah, I was.
And you survived all that, and you were glad to be home, weren't you?
Oh, yeah, that was nice.
And you didn't stay in the Army, you got out and you went on with your life.
Yep. Went out and I got a furlough right before I got out. And then when the furlough was over, I ended up at Mountain Home, Idaho. That's where I came home to. And that was a nice base. And they sent me down to Amarillo, no. I think it was somewhere in Texas, I think. And we was down there to learn how to fly and handle all these, like the B-36, that's a big one.
So they were going to send you to Japan.
Japan. So all of us, well, it can't be all of us, but 5, 6 guys. See, the other 4 were all officers. See, I was called a tech sergeant officer, but I was, you know, it's different.
Because you were an enlisted man.
You're right. Well, anyway, I went there, then they sent me to, I don't know, somewhere in Texas. I can't remember that for some reason. Anyway, and then from there, I didn't stay there very long. And then from there, they sent me back to Salt Lake City. And out of Salt Lake City. And then Salt Lake City, they sent me, where I went from Salt Lake City. I went from Salt Lake City, I went to Indiana, that's right. Down to a place in Indiana. And not around Indianapolis. I can't.
Well, you were almost home at that point. You must have been
That's right.
excited.
But that's what they tried to do.
Get you close to home.
Yeah, when the people, was ready to go home, they tried to get them the best they could in there.
So how were you thinking about going back to the Battle of Japan? You knew they were preparing you for that, and you weren't crazy about that idea, I guess.
Yeah, that's what we were in trade for. And, none of us liked it. And we decided we were going to act like we can't remember or can't learn all that stuff. There have been different planes even. See, because over there then they had the B-29, which was a big, I mean, it's a bomber, but it was almost twice the size of the one that we were flying, B-24s.
So you guys were not interested in going out again to another battlefield. You were home and you wanted to stay home.
Yeah.
So when you heard they dropped that bomb and the war was over, that was a relief.
Yeah, they dropped 2 of them over there. But, yeah, that's what ended it. I don't know. Things come and go,
When you got married after you got out of the service. Did you date her? Did you go together while you were in the service? Or did you meet her after you got out of the service?
Oh, I knew her before I ever went in, yeah. But, 40, I don't know.
You got married in 45.
February 24th, 45.
You stayed here in Lawrenceburg and Harrison area all these years, right?
I was born there and lived there and went home there. And I was trying to think when we got married, we would, with all things, we went to L.A. for our honeymoon, whatever. And we went out on a train. And the first time my wife was ever on a train. And it took us a while to get there. And then when our time was, and when we got out there, we stayed in this, it was a Miramar hotel. Beautiful place. That's where we ended up at, and believe it or not, and that thing, Wilson, he was a tail gunner. Him and his wife just got married, and they was there for the same reason. And he was from anyway, he was around close to Mountain Home, Idaho, I think that's where Richard started. Anyway, when it was time for us, see, the service paid all of my things to get me out there, but I had to pay hers. They wouldn't do that. And but when it came time to leave, I left with her. And the reason I did, they got me. Well, there was a lot of them going to be on that train, a lot of GIs. And whether it was a fortunate or unfortunate, I was the highest grade, and I had to be in charge of all those guys. guys that was going. But they were all going home, so they was happy. They didn't have to do much. And I did that until I got to there's a lot of places in Texas, and I can't remember this. Anyway, I went that far, all the way to Texas with her on the train, and I told her, I said, that's it. You're gonna have to do the rest. And while we were there, and I was going, forget, maybe to Laredo, Texas, or somewhere like that, and she was going home, and while she was going home is when Roosevelt died. He had some kind of a cerebral hemorrhage or something like that. But then I was still in the Army when I got married. I was home, but I was still in there. See, that's the reason her and I went out there, and they let me go free. Yeah.
Did you ever have reunions after you all got out of the service?
Oh, yeah. 451st they have a reunion every year. And I only went to one of them, you know. So, see, the funny thing is believe it or not, that reunion that I went to, there was not another guy from was on our plane. I was the only one there for that. And I really didn't think about what it was. It wasn't so much. Anyway, I never did go back. Never went to another one, but I get the paper from them they put out a newspaper. It's really interesting to read it though. But I just didn't do nothing for me.
Well, it sounds like you had a very interesting experience during the war.
Yeah, I've always said that, but I'm glad I did it, but also glad I was able to do it. Because we lost a lot of people.
A lot of people all over the world. Well, I guess, any questions, Betty?
No, you did very well, I think.
Anything else you want to tell us?
Probably, but I can't think of them all, you know.
Well, we thank you for your service to our country
Yes.
and for telling us your story today. Turn it off.